So, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Everybody got some lunch? Yeah. Is everybody from Santa Monica, or do I have anybody here from other mortgage centers? Santa Monica?
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica?
I actually just kind of cheated and joined here.
Did you? Oh, that's fine.
We're good friends.
That's great. If you can be from anywhere. We invite everybody to come in from all
Can I bring
market
my
centers.
friend
Yeah,
next
this is
time?
not like
from
our-
Yeah.
the banker?
Yeah, bring your friend from Coldwell Banker. We'll convert her.
Maybe I'm trying for 3 months.
For 3 months?
I'm trying.
Just bring her to me. I'll take care of that. We'll show her. I give her my personal story. I used to be with Prudential for 6 years, and I came here to Keller Williams. My business quadrupled, literally.
Wow.
So I can speak personally. Keller Williams, the education and the foundation and the business model here is second to none. I don't know how these other companies are functioning. I know how they're functioning. They're taking all the commission and then they just throw you out to do your thing. But they don't give you any education. So that's why we're #1 in the country now and in the world. You know, we have Dubai, we're in Dubai, we're in South Africa, we're in Turkey, we're in Vietnam. We're all over the world. So there's a reason for that, right? It's because of the education. It's the education. So I'm going to, it's really, I have to be honest with you guys. It is really a sin that more people are not concerned about this internet cyberspace thing, because it's very, very serious. And you know, I'm really grateful that we have, that we were introduced to Stahl. And you know, I have a relationship with a firm, Carl Terzian and Associates, and we all came together last year, and through that relationship, I've had the blessing of meeting so many wonderful people, and one of these folks here is Stan Stahl, and I'm gonna read a little bit here about his background. He's a pioneer in the field. He's Dr. Stahl, by the way, and he's a pioneer in the field of information security. Having entered the field in 1980, earlier in his career, he secured teleconferencing at the White House, okay, and databases inside Cheyenne Mountain, and the communications network controlling our nuclear weapons arsenal. So he's got some very heavy background and experience in this arena. Dr. Stahl excels at helping his clients develop and implement information security management strategies consistent with their unique information system responsibilities, their business realities, and their cultural circumstances. He has the rare gift of being able to describe the complexities of information security in a way that makes sense to real-world, non-technical business professionals, in other words, the layman. Okay, so we are really fortunate to have him here. I'm just so sorry that the rest of our agents did not elect to participate, because, you know, it's, and I know this is experienced widely, that people don't tune into things unless they are, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but until it's hammering them in the face and they are dealing with it personally, they don't think of it as a big deal. But eventually, this is one day. Just imagine the internet crashes and none of us can access it one day. We can't access our bank accounts. We can't. I mean, can you imagine? It'd be a disaster, right? Yeah. So anyway, without further ado, I want to bring Stan up. Stan, thank you so much for coming out, and thank you for feeding us.
Enjoy the sandwiches. Thank you all. Again, to just pick up on what Toni said, I'm truly grateful that you're here. You can't look at the people who aren't here, because they'll get it when they get it, if you will. But we can certainly be grateful for the people that are here, for you that it's here. And it in part goes to you know, the education piece up here, the culture piece up here. What you're going to hear today, in some sense, is that information security, more than anything else, is all about culture. It's all about education. It's about knowing what's going on so that you're able to respond appropriately when you become the attack point. And you will be. You already are, and may not know it in some ways. So, I mean, just think Keller Williams, think education, think culture, think technology, because a piece of information security is definitely technology, but you'll see there's a lot more to it than just the technology. So, just before we start, real quickly, a little bit about Citadel Information Group, who we are. There's 3 principals in the company, myself and 2 colleagues. Their kind of real world in the trenches IT background is much better than mine. That's what they specialize in. I'm the, I'm the gray haired, or no hair, whatever, leading this. And a lot of what we do is provide that kind of leadership for our client. There's a whole list of the specifics that we do, but so much of it is leadership, so much of it is bringing culture to organizations around information security. So that's what today is all about. First, we're going to start, I'm going to share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly, because you need to know it, you need to know what's going on out there so that you're able to defend yourself. But then where we're going to end up is I want to make all of you superheroes, because that's what it takes to get our arms collectively around this solution. It turns out that if hackers get into your computer, let's say, for example, they can use your computer as a mechanism to get into your computer, and then into yours, and into yours. So all of us have got to participate together, being the cyber heroes, if you will. And, you know, Batman started life as Bruce Wayne. He was just an ordinary mortal, just like we are. But he rose up to that level. I'm going to tell you what you need to do to get yourself up to that same level. So here's our starting point. How bad is it out there? Just ask Target. Sales were down, what, 20%? Something like that?
Wow.
After the breach was announced in December. They lost 70 million credit cards and debit cards.
Yeah.
And a key piece of the Target story is that how did bad guys get into Target? Well, they didn't go directly to Target. They hacked into a heating and ventilation company in Pennsylvania that Target was a customer of theirs. And this HVAC company, their network was connected into the Target network, so they hacked the heating and ventilation company, and through that got to Target. That's a piece of the Target story. The other piece of the Target story that is very, very important is that when people hear Target is attacked, 70 million credit cards, whatever, they think, oh, big companies, oh, credit cards. And that's the tip of the iceberg. But we'll see later, every business in America is at risk, Keller Williams included. And every person who works in any company in America is a piece of the solution. So that's where we're kind of headed. How bad is it? This is just how much personal information has been breached since 2005. 2005, California became the first state in the country that required notification of California citizens if their information, our information, was breached. Since that time, 48 states now have breach notification laws. Since that time, the Privacy Rights Clearinghouse, 662 million records reported breach up through the end of the year. So that includes the first 40 million of Target. It doesn't include this second group, an additional 70 million. So add 70 million to that total. That's our information. That's your credit card number and your credit card number and your social security number and your medical information and so on and so on. This is the world we live in today. And from a business perspective, this is incredibly expensive. One can't even imagine what this is costing Target in total. But on average, from industry studies that we know, if you've got 1,000 records in your database and it gets breached and you've got to notify all those people, but of course, before you notify them, you've got to get forensics people to come in to do an investigation, you've got to pay lawyers, you've got to buy identity theft protection for all of them. You are looking, on average, at $200 a record. So 1,000 names is a $200,000 exposure that you're under. 10,000 names is $2 million of exposure that you're under. So we're talking real money here. okay? I was just at a Price Waterhouse Coopers session this morning down at the City Club, where they talked about their recent cybersecurity report for 2014. They say we're seeing far more lawsuits than we've ever seen before, class action suits, like against Target for this. So think just, well, wait a minute, what if it was Keller Williams? And there's a class action suit against Keller Williams from people who've been harmed. What would that do to all of you here? I mean, that's part of the way we have to start thinking about this. That we gotta take it personally. We have to take it personally. So, the whole other piece, we got Laura here from California United Bank. This is the thing she lives with day in, day out. Online bank fraud. So, true story, because we were involved in this. Woman in an escrow company. Anybody here have anything to do with escrow companies?
Oh, yeah.
Like real estate, like escrow, right?
Like all day.
So, an escrow company gets an email, says something about, your UPS shipment's being delayed, click on this attachment for more information. They click on the attachment. That downloaded a program called Zeus into their computer. Zeus copied every keystroke that the owner of the escrow company typed into her computer, including when she went online to the bank. It copied her user ID and password, and her mother's maiden name and all the other questions that they asked. A week later, the owner of the escrow company comes into work in the morning with an escrow to close that day, and she goes online to the bank to make sure everything's in place, all the money's there. She finds $400,000 missing. Think about what happens. You're closing a house, and the escrow company says, well, gee, stuff's happened. We don't have the money. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Think about if you're the owner of that escrow company, you've just been kicked in the stomach. Where's that money? And she calls her bank. And in this case, this particular bank said, well, Michelle, this is your problem, not ours. They hacked into your computer. That's how they got into the bank. It's your user ID, it's your password. It's not our fault. And all too often, that's the reality. If you want it to be the bank's fault, you have to sue them and win that lawsuit. So it's going to cost you a ton of money. It's a bad relationship between you and the bank that's been soured. Banks are doing a lot. I mean, Laura's here today and she can tell you that. But banks can't protect you against yourself, really. If you open up the door and let the bad guys in, to where from the bank's computer systems, it looks just like you're actually there interfacing with the bank on their website. The bank can't know that it's not you. So that's part of the challenge that we face. These are just some of the examples of some of the businesses and nonprofits that have been hit. Efficient Services Escrow up in the top, they were hit $1 million they lost to China, or criminals in China. Let's be more explicit about that. $1 million. They're in receivership, they're out of business. 12 people lost their jobs. $1 billion a year, that translates to about 50,000 jobs that are gone because of cybercrime. So that's a piece of it. This is a whole other piece of it. That's a building in Shanghai. It's well known to the cybersecurity industry, a company called Mandiant, who did an investigation after the New York Times was breached, identified that building. China is stealing our intellectual property right and left. That number says 750 plus. I'm told, I've not seen it validated, that over 900 of the Fortune 1000 have lost trade secrets and intellectual property to groups in China stealing it. That's part of what we face. That's your customer list. That's any special circumstances around the way Keller Williams deals with real estate, with brokers, in the entire industry. All of that. What's the value of that if it's lost to Keller Williams?
Give us an example of what those intellectual properties might be. You know, when you say that they're known to be victims of the Chinese theft of intellectual property. When I think of intellectual properties, I'm thinking of like movies, books, a product.
Yes, yeah.
What would these intellectual properties be?
Good question. Good question, Tony. So intellectual property in the broader sense, it certainly includes books, movies, music, software, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It also includes, well, let's see, there was a company in England that had spent 10 years and $1 billion on R&D, research and development, for a new high-tech, whatever it was they were building. The Chinese stole it. It's $1 billion worth of their investment now off to China. It includes part of intellectual property or trade secrets.
Got it.
All the things that you keep, every business has, they keep close to their vest because it's how you do business. It's your profit splits with other organizations and things like that. That's intellectual property. That's also, see, at risk. Now, the Chinese aren't going to want those, but your competitors certainly might. And as you go global, of course, your competitors are also global, and they may have a very, very different attitude towards cybercrime than you yourselves do. The next one as well. So what happens if one day you turn on your computer at work and up comes a screen that says, this is the Department of Justice, we have identified malicious stuff on your computer, and if you want it back, you've got to call us. You call that number, turns out to be cyber criminals who have locked up your computer, and the only way you can get it back is to pay them money. Or what happens if it not only hits you, but it hits every computer in this network? That actually happened. Saudi Arabia, the Aramco, the Saudi oil company, they were hit with an attack that looks like it came from Iran. We don't know for sure. We don't know. I'm sure the government does. I'm sure the NSA knows who did it. We just don't happen to know officially. But it looked like it came from Iran, but it destroyed 45,000 computers. They turned them into bricks. What happens if a competitor of yours says, oh, let's go get Keller Williams today, and sends an email to you or to you or to you? You click on that link, you open up that attachment, and a little piece of malicious software that's called malware runs, and it runs on your computer, and then it goes across the network and goes to every other computer on that network and turns all of those computers into bricks. What do? Where's your business? That's ransomware. Here's perhaps the most telling statistic about it. The House of Representatives had hearings a year ago now. One of the people testifying there, this was introduced by the chairman of the subcommittee, small business subcommittee. More than 3/4 of small businesses believe, that's the operative word here, believe their companies are safe from hackers. Yet, 20 to 30% of all victims of cybercrime are businesses with under 250 people. 20 to 30% of all victims are those small businesses. What happens to them? 60% of them go out of business within 6 months. Like the escrow company, Efficient Services, that's in the receivership. 60% of those companies are out of business within 6 months. That's the nature, I mean, this, I said, the good, the bad, the ugly. Are you getting it? I mean, this isn't playtime, this is real. This is real impact. And here's the bottom line. So, and it goes both to you and to Keller Williams management, and management throughout, and people throughout the city. Everybody's got to get involved here, because everybody's got a computer that needs protecting. Sometimes that's protected by the IT department. More often than not, in our experience, it's not protected by the IT department. But even the computers that are protected by the IT department, because let's say they're right here in this office, how many of you have home computers? A lot of hands go up. How many of you have laptops? A lot of hands go up. What about smartphones? Like, all the hands go up. What about tablets? Fewer hands, but several. All of them need to be protected. So, before we can talk about, well, how do we protect it, we've got to look at, well, how do they attack it? Because protection is always, against the attack. You can't design a defense against the forward pass, if, let's say you use football, if you don't know what the forward pass looks like. You got to kind of understand where they're going to attack. So there's 3 inconvenient truths. Thank you to Al Gore for the phrase. Thank you to Al Gore as well for the internet. We're grateful. You should have designed security into it, though. You know, you didn't. They didn't. But there's three truths. The internet wasn't designed to be secure in the first place, and it's not. And I'll show you some examples. Computer technology is riddled with security holes, and I'll show you some examples. This is what got me into the field in the first place 34 years ago, was how do you write software that's going to control nuclear missiles, for example? You don't want that software to be full of bugs. You don't want all of a sudden a missile to go off. Oh, gee, sorry, we lost that one. That won't work, you know? You don't want, here comes the attack, and you push the button, and nothing happens, right? And you certainly don't want the enemy to get the codes so they can control our missiles. Okay, we spend a lot of time, a lot of money making sure our nuclear missile technology is not riddled with holes. The software we all use is, and I'll show you examples. Jim?
Yeah, I heard this morning on the radio that actually today is the 25th anniversary of the internet.
Yes.
It's only 25 years old.
Yes.
When you think, 25 years, I mean, that's not a lot.
That's younger than us.
That's right. I remember using DOS, you know,
Yes.
if anybody remembers that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good point, because think about it from a broader perspective. We're going to look at vulnerabilities and things like that as we move. But what's it been, a few million years since we climbed down from trees, you know, and learned to protect ourselves on the ground? We got pretty good at it. I mean, there's a mountain lion I saw videos of up in the Hollywood Hills, but, you know, we're all behind houses and things like that. Except for our cats and our dogs, we really don't have to worry about the mountain lion. My wife and I were in Africa a few years ago. You got to be careful about the lions there, right? But we got a couple of million years of practice. We have 25 years experience in practice.
You know,
With the
according to
internet.
Cosmos, it's only the last 14 seconds or something.
Yeah, right. And then the third truth also, and I don't want to burst your bubbles or, you know, get you upset or anything, but in case you hadn't noticed, we humans, we're not perfect either. We make mistakes. We don't know. We're all that way. So let's go through these. So first, just an illustration of what we need versus what we have. What we need, that's a bank vault. You all recognize it from the pictures, right? What we have on the right is the door to the swimming pool at the Four Seasons Hotel in Carlsbad, California. My wife and I were staying there several years ago. We had a room up to the second floor, right above this door. And I'm sitting outside on our little balcony one morning drinking coffee, and I watch all these people go up. It's a nice day, they're gonna go swimming. So they all put their little card in here, and they turn the handle and go in. It's like you go to a website, you put your user ID and your password in, and you open up the door and you go in. Little young girl, I don't know, 9, 10 years old, thin, operative piece of this story, walks up, sticks her hand between the bars, reaches up behind, opens up the door, and walks in. No key card necessary, no user ID, no password. She just reached up under the bar and opened it up. That's what we've got. That's the reality of the internet. So here's an example. NBC, their website, last February, year ago February, for, I don't know, several hours, you went to that website, malicious software from that website ran in your browser and attempted to take over your computer. How did that happen? Well, cyber criminals found a way to hack into the NBC website. And they installed their own little program so that when a user went to NBC, that program ran inside their little browser, you know, Firefox or Internet Explorer or whatever it is, Chrome, Google, you know, whatever, and ran. And if that malicious software finds it can get into the computer, and I'll show you how easy that is in a moment, that malicious software is now in your computer. It can do in your computer whatever it wants. It's controlled by somebody typically either in Eastern Europe, in China, perhaps here in the US, in Brazil, could be anywhere in the world. Once that malicious software gets a foothold on your computer, it can now do anything. It can browse your files, it can look for 16-digit numbers, like credit card numbers happen to be. It can look for 9-digit numbers, which are social security numbers. It can look for a file called passwords. And whatever it finds, it can ship out over that same 25-year-old internet to wherever the bad guy wants it to be. This is called a watering hole attack. That's actually a picture from our trip to Africa of a watering hole, right? But this is the kind of stuff, they take over websites and they infect it with malicious software. That's what malware means.
Dan, how does NBC find out about that?
Good question, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Perhaps their security teams were alerted or something. But I really don't, I'd be guessing, Laura, to answer that. This is another thing, this is more recent. This was January of this year. And it reflects kind of a whole new way that cyber criminals are thinking. See, they're outlaws, but they're smart. So they're always looking for, well, what else can we do? How else do we break in? So the end of last year, a group of them broke into the servers of a company that serves advertising. You go on the web, you see ads now. Oh, that's part of how the web is monetized. Well, the bad guys figured out that if they could break into the company that serves the ads, and they could infect the ads with malicious software, now anybody who clicked on those ads is at risk of downloading that malware onto their computer. And they did that. They did that to Yahoo. They broke into the advertising agency serving the ads. The same thing happened to Barack Obama. His Twitter feed was broken into, not directly, but people, a company, I think it's, I forget where it is, and the company not just had Barack Obama, but several other well-known people as well, that they were serving up Twitter feeds for. That company was broken into, hacked, and for a short period of time, you were getting tweets on Obama's Twitter and other places like that, that were put there by the bad guys. That was more, oh, let's see what we can do, let's mess them up. This is all about making money, you see. And here's what happens. Now, you click on that link, you go to that attachment, you go to that website that's bad, and that malicious software, I said, runs in your computer. Well, what it's doing is it's looking, this is inconvenient truth number 2, it's looking for programs you're running that have software vulnerabilities in it that the bad guys can exploit. And so you run, all of us run lots of different programs. We run Flash in our browser, we run Firefox, QuickTime, Apple's operating system, Chrome, Windows, Adobe PDF, Internet Explorer. We're running all of these programs. Well, all of these programs are buggy. The only people who make software that doesn't have critical bugs are places like nuclear missile stuff, because we spend a lot of money to make sure that software works. Much if Microsoft or Flash or Adobe or Sun, Oracle, any of those people were to put that same amount of money into writing good software, none of us could afford it. I mean, it's just one of the unfortunate economic realities of the internet. So all of our software has flaws, and it's these flaws that are exploited by the malicious software that gives ownership of the computer to the bad guy. It's this stuff. And then we ourselves, I said we're not perfect. Well, here's just one example. We all get tons of emails every day, way too many if you're like me, right? I'm sure you do. This is one I got from, this goes back to, there's a date on it somewhere, 2011. I've just saved it because it's so interesting, such a story. Here. You read this email, this looks just like it's from Citi. And in fact, I have a Citi credit card. So it's not necessarily unusual that I should get this email. And what the email says, it's been sent to me, this email's been sent. To view it, please sign on, and it gives me a link. And it repeats the link here, repeats it here, and repeats it here. Now the average untrained user, not you anymore, but the average untrained user, gonna think nothing of this, they're gonna click on that link. Well, what happens when they click on that link? It doesn't go to Citibank Online, it actually goes to this. And where this ends is at this, down here at the bottom, the stuff before the .org, everything else is just like a prefix. These are, this points actually to an internal web page on this site. And you go to that site, Paracoin, whatever it is, You find yourself at a Christian site in South America. I think, I'm not sure where, it's Argentina, Brazil, somewhere like that. What happened? What's that? I mean, it's not that Citibank wants to send me to a Christian site down in South America. No, hackers sent out that email after first breaking into this website and installing malicious software, which when you go to this page, runs. So if I just naively clicked on this link, I would have opened up my computer to malicious software. How could I recognize it? Well, if you hover your mouse over a URL like this, a link like this, what will show up in your browser email window is the actual URL that it's pointing to. So you get the chance to look at it and see if it's really going to Citibank. This one starts citibank.com, but instead of having a slash there, so that all of this would be internal pages, it just goes dot this, dot that, dot. And that's the indicator it's not really coming from Citibank. Of course, another way to know it's not coming from Citibank is that no bank anymore is going to send you an email that says click on this link. At most they'll do, because I get this sometimes, is an email that says we have posted information in our portal online, please log in online. We'll give you a link. It'll just tell you to do it. So you go to your browser and go to your bank and read the email. That's what good banks do, right? I mean, yeah, not rocket science anymore. But you have to be sensitive to this. In fact, just kind of closing out this section, we humans are really the weak link. This is where it's education and culture more than it is technology that's at risk. That's where the solution space is. We open up the door to cyber criminals we click on email links. We use weak passwords. The most common password is either QWERTY or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, I mean, that's what we're using, and we use it for all of our websites. Instead of, okay, you might want to use that for a site that has nothing at all sensitive to on it or whatever, but you don't want to use it for online banking, you don't want to use it for Facebook, you don't want to use it for LinkedIn or any of those. We'll talk more about passwords later. We send emails to the wrong recipient. Sometimes it's a big deal, but other times it's very important that the wrong person just got this email and they were the person who wasn't supposed to get it because now they know that we're about to fire them Tuesday or whatever the circumstances might be. Or they're about to know you're doing a real estate deal. They now, the other side now knows that the most your customer is going to pay for this is $680. You know, so they know how to negotiate now because we've sent it to the wrong place. We lose laptops. We're doing that always. We delete files by accident. And then we have to admit as well, we're not all good people. Of course, everybody in this room is. Most of us are. But 1 out of 1,000 can do a ton of damage. We've seen this. We've seen this. We've seen embezzlement. We have seen trade secrets being stolen. We have seen inside a company, the IT manager and the vice president of operations colluding. They ran a separate company on that company's computer systems, unbeknownst to management, stealing, fundamentally. So we are the weak link here. So just as an illustration, because everybody says, well, wait a minute, what about the technology piece? We have antivirus software. Why aren't we protected? Well, this is 20 days in June, a couple of years ago, from the University of Alabama in Birmingham. They've got a really advanced computer security group there. And they took, for these 20 days, the dominant spam of the day. Whatever spam was being sent out, you know, hundreds of thousands of them, emails to unsuspecting users. They looked at what was the attack on, well, first, what was the spoof brand? UPS, the Postal Service, Verizon, IRS, DHL, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Amazon, and so on. That's where these emails look like they're coming from, but they're not. They're all fraudulent. They're like the Citibank one, right? This is what the attack type is. You see Zeus a lot. You see Dapato and Andromeda. That's all malicious software. That's all bad stuff. That's stuff you don't want on your computer. And you think, well, wait a minute, we've got Norton or Symantec or Kaspersky or AVG or whoever. Aren't we protected? Well, at that time, there were 42 antivirus engines. And this next column shows you how many of those antivirus programs caught the malware, right? And you see, well, 3 out of 42 caught it, which means 39 out of 42 missed it. 4 out of 42 caught it, 38 missed it, 37 missed it, 42 missed it, and so on. I mean, these are terrible numbers. And even 30 days later, that's what this thing is. Many are still missing it. And it's not a matter of, oh, Kaspersky catches it, but Symantec doesn't. They're all bad. And the reason they're bad is because the cyber criminals are so good. If I'm a cyber criminal and I'm launching an attack like this, before I launch it, the first thing I do is I test it on all the, what are now 50 antivirus engines. And before I send it, I know the antivirus engines aren't going to catch it, because I've already tested it against all of them. See, they're not dummies. They're in this for the money. They don't want to waste time being caught by Symantec or McAfee or somebody. So they test it first, and it gets right past the technology. So what do you do about it? What do you do about it? And this is in some sense where this talk splits, because sometimes this talk is to boards of directors and people in the C-suite and all. And then I talk about, what does a business have to do to get its arms around this problem? Here, I want to focus on each of you as people, individuals. What can you do? How do you be a cyber hero? How do you get that? And you start, I love the quote of Ben Franklin's, distrust and caution. That's where we start. Distrust and caution. Okay. Those are the parents of security to begin. So let's run through the 12 steps. Step 1, know what's going on. Because Sun Tzu, The Art of War, 2,000-year-old treatise on military campaigns out of China, said it best. If you don't know your enemies nor yourself, you will be imperiled in every battle. You're hosed. You can't win. So the first thing is to know what's going on. We publish every week cybersecurity news of the week. You can go to our website, citadel-information.com, enter your email address and basic information. You will get it 3 o'clock every Sunday afternoon. It'll be in your inbox. And we cover somewhere between 15 and 25 stories a week. And we break them up into categories. The top one is always cybercrime. The page, they have to scroll down to the bottom of the page to see some of the other categories, but they include things like cybersecurity management, privacy, national security, defense. We've covered the Snowden NSA battles from the day they broke. Some of those are cyber privacy stories, and some of them are national cybersecurity stories, because the Snowden NSA thing includes both of those. But every week we publish a lot of stories about this. And it's free. You can just sign up on our website. Tony gets it, Jim gets it, Laura gets it. And it's available to all of you. And feel free to send it to everybody you know. Because one of the mantras, one of the quotes, one of the things that we've really learned over the years, and Jim's smiling because he knows what I'm about to say, but it's true, it takes the village to secure the village. And you're all part of the village, and everybody you know is part of the village. So help us, help you, help them, help us. I mean, it works that way. Second thing, also using our weekly report not just includes news, but it includes a list of all the important security updates of the week for home and small office computers. This is last week's, happens to have a lot of Apple stuff on it, because last week Apple made some major changes. They had a major flaw, a major security bug that surfaced a few weeks ago that they've been cleaning up. Nobody knew about it except maybe bad guys up until just recently. But it came out, and now you see all the Apple updates. But regularly, all of these programs that I said were insecure, they get patched on a regular basis. And you can get the information you need to patch those on your computer simply by signing up for our weekly report. Worst of all of them is Java. How many of you know if you run Java? Okay, a few of you know it, okay. A lot of you don't because it runs inside your browser, so you may not know it.
Is it a bad one?
It's a bad one.
So we shouldn't be running it?
That's correct. Most programs, most websites do not require Java. Our recommendation, remove Java from your computer. You can do that if you're a Windows user from the control panel. If you need Java for any particular reason, take a browser, whatever your normal browser, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, whatever it is, Safari, whatever your normal browser is, Don't install Java in it so that Java doesn't run when you're running your normal browser. Install it in a different browser, like if you're a Firefox user, install it in Internet Explorer. And then if you have a site that just isn't working because Java's not there, use your other browser. If you use GoToMeeting, which a lot of people use for collaboration, that does take Java. Worse, I talked to a company, he's a call center, in the call center business, running a call center program, web-based. He had people all over the country as part of his call center, not really a center, it's a center. The particular call center software he was using required not just Java, it required an older version of Java. Which is like, that's criminal. At this, I mean, this is 2014. But people don't know this stuff. How important is it to do this? Studies from Verizon are that 90% of all breaches, here's the number, 90% of them, could be stopped if people were just running up-to-date programs. So if this is the only of the 12 things, you won't be a superhero if this is all you do, but at least you get a passing grade if this is all you do. So do this, whatever else you might do or not do, okay? Be careful. Social media is, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, the ads in particular on Facebook are often delivering malware along with whatever the ad is. The people who want to friend you because they're friends of a friend of a friend, what, do you really know them? Can you really trust them? Because we've seen stories of, you know, how you work your way through a social network by friending somebody who now you're their friends. Hi, I'm Laura's friend. Can we be friends? Oh, great. Hi, I'm her friend. Can we be friends? Hi, I'm her friend. Can we be friends? You're going to say, yes, I'm a bad guy. Laura doesn't even know who I am because I've just socially engineered her to say that we're friends, and that's how I got to being your friend, and now I'm going to go attack you. Or let's say I want to attack you, and I go on social media and I find out all of this stuff about you because you are not at all careful about what you put in social media. I've got pictures of you with a bong. I've got pictures of you, you know, I mean, just use your imagination, right? But that's what the cyber criminals are doing to get information. They find out about your family and everything else. They want to be very careful with what you put on social media and how you use it, okay? Passwords, everybody hates them. We are still 3, 4, 5 years away from not needing them. I mean, we're working on that technology, but it's not here yet. You need passwords. So a few basic rules. First, keep them private. There's no need to share passwords in today's world anymore. All of your passwords that access sensitive information, long, we recommend, you're not going to like this, but 12 or more characters. 8's just too few in today's world. You can go online, download something called a rainbow table. Okay, that's kind of technical, but the bad guys are technical. So they have rainbow tables. You give me, let's say I get a rainbow table designed for 8-character password. You give me an 8-character password, I'll break it in 3 or 4 seconds with these rainbow tables. That's how ineffective short passwords are. They have to be complex, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, at least 3 of those. And they have to be unique. I don't know if you remember a few years ago when LinkedIn had its password file stolen. And all of those passwords now became available to the bad guys using rainbow tables to break them. Okay. A lot of people, and the bad guys took advantage of this, a lot of people's passwords to their online bank account was the same as their password to LinkedIn. So now I have your LinkedIn password. I also have your name and your email address. So I log on to, let's say, Citibank. We had them in the earlier story. And I go to log in. And so I put in the name and the password, and let's say it works because you've used the same password. That's bad. But if it doesn't work, I still put the password in and I say I forgot my password. And it's going to email it now. Well, it'll email it to whoever's password, whoever email it is. But we also have examples of people breaking into cell phones electronically hacking cell phones. And as those emails from the bank come, here's your new password reset, they're seen in the smartphone by the cyber criminal before the owner sees it himself, and then the email is destroyed, deleted. So the user never sees it. Now the bad guy has the bank's credentials for you. Right? So these passwords need to be unique. And there's no way to remember 100 passwords, or if you're my age, there's no way to remember 2 passwords, maybe even 1. But there are tools for that. RoboForm is a tool we use regularly. Another one is called KeyPass. They're both, KeyPass is free, a little bit harder to use than RoboForm, but either of them.
How secure are the password managers?
What's that?
How secure are the
Well,
password
good question.
managers?
They
Because then
also
you
are
have your
not.
life there.
So that's right. So that's why you've got to be very careful which ones you use. RoboForm is not, I've never seen a breach of it. Doesn't say it's secure, it's not. No software is secure. But what you need to do is just watch carefully, read reviews. As I say, the 2 that I'm most confident in are RoboForm and KeyPass. And the password to the password vault, if you will, that's like the keys to the kingdom. Mine's 20 characters long. And that's actually one of only a couple of passwords that I really have to remember. Because with RoboForm, it runs inside my browser. I go to California United Bank, I click, it's got the user ID login screen, I click RoboForm, it fills in the credentials for me automatically. I never even need to see those passwords. Yeah.
Have you heard of LastPass?
LastPass?
Yeah.
I've heard of it, I don't know it as well as RoboForm. So is it distrust and caution are the parents of security? So since I don't know it, all I can do is say I've heard of it, but I don't know it. Yeah. Okay. Here's some good examples. And notice about these examples, even though they've got lots of randomness in them, they're broken up into groups, if you will. This system starts with numbers, then it's got special characters, then a capital, then a bunch of lowercase, and then some more uppercase. And they all kind of have that same kind of form, that they're in blocks. So it makes them just easier to kind of, not to remember, but just keep track of, if you will. And easier to type, if you do have to type them in, than if they were uppercase this, lowercase that, special character this. Now you're going crazy. Okay? Next piece. A lot of you have laptops. You can encrypt those. Built into the operating system is encryption for it. Encrypting your laptop's a get-out-of-jail-free card if there's a breach. Because the breach disclosure laws are that if the information's encrypted, the presumption is that bad guys can't get it. Therefore, you don't have to notify anybody. So if those 1,000 names in your database are on your laptop and your laptop's encrypted, you just save potentially $200,000 when that laptop is stolen. I mean, that's serious money.
Now, when you say encrypt laptop, where do you go to? I mean, is that your
Yeah.
password or?
Inside the operating system, and you
Yeah.
have to look this up
Yeah.
specifically for Windows and what version of Windows, or if you've got a MacBook or that kind of thing. But if you do a help search, either on Google or inside, help me on the operating system, encrypt, it will tell you where.
Oh.
There's also a free tool called TrueCrypt, TrueCrypt, that you can download, and that also will encrypt an entire drive. You can use TrueCrypt as well for USB drives and things like that you want to encrypt.
But is that the same as when your laptop comes up, Windows comes up and asks for your password? Is that the same? Is
No.
that different?
No, that's different. This is a password even before the thing boots up, before you get the Windows screen. When you first turn it on, you'll need to enter a password.
Because I've never done that once.
That's what you
Yeah.
need to do. Okay, smartphones and tablets, same thing. They need protection. It's just, they're way too easy to lose. And we're now carrying sensitive information on them as well. And that means password protected. Your iPhones, you can set this up with either a 4-character password or a longer password, and you can set it so that if somebody enters the password wrong more than like 10 times or 5 times, it'll self-destruct. It's like the tape in Mission Impossible, see all the smoke coming out of it? Not really, but virtually, if you will. Encrypted, same way. Now with the iPhone, when you password protect it, you are encrypting it. So those two things go together. But that may not be the situation with all tablets, with all smartphones. Don't don't put anything sensitive on it that you don't need to. Keep all the sensitive stuff in the office, behind the door, behind the lock. If you can't, if you need to work with it, that's fine. We're a mobile society. We work 24/7. We don't sleep. We don't do anything but work anymore. So sometimes you need sensitive information on it, but keep that to a minimum. When you're done, delete it. Get rid of it. Manage Wi-Fi. These things are set to automatically connect into Wi-Fi once they've connected into a router of that name. They'll do it again and again and again. Well, that's great convenience. I go home, this automatically logs into my Wi-Fi. But if I'm somewhere and I connect it to a Wi-Fi whose name is Linksys, and I now walk somewhere else into another building and they have a Wi-Fi router also called Linksys, and that Wi-Fi router is protected not with a password or with the same password or something, this will connect to that Wi-Fi router. I don't know where that Wi-Fi router is. Same thing with Starbucks. Same thing with Coffee Bean in those places. Okay? It is very easy. There's a program called Firesheep. You can look it up. Sounds like Firefox, but it's Firesheep. A bad guy can sit in a Starbucks and run Firesheep. And everybody in Starbucks who's working on their laptops, wirelessly, he'll see all their traffic. It'll go right through his computer. And I can go to the airport where maybe the name of the wireless router outside, let's say the American Airlines Admirals Club, is AA Admiral, and I can sit outside at a gate right nearby and create a little wireless access bot that I call AA Admiral. And now a user may connect into my Wi-Fi instead of American Airlines, and I get all their access. So be very careful with Wi-Fi. What if you lose it? What do you do? Well, Androids, iPhones, all have a way to wipe them remotely, called Find My iPhone, in the case of the iPhone, where you can, if you lose it, you can go to any computer, log into your iCloud account, first say Find My iPhone, and it'll tell you, locate it geographically, okay? You can have it make sounds so you can hear it. My wife couldn't find her iPad a couple of weeks ago. She knew it was in the house, she didn't know where. So we went on to iCloud and we had it make noises. And we found it was underneath a stack of magazines in the bedroom. But that's great. Or if she lost it, there's another button there in the iCloud. You can wipe it, take everything off of it, so nothing sensitive stays on that thing. So that's another piece. How many of you have Androids? Androids are dangerous. No hands go up, good. I mean, I hate to say don't buy an Android because they are popular, and Samsung and LG and all, they all make, from a phone perspective, from a smartphone perspective, great tools. Their security on them is non-existent. And we just tweeted a story, it'll be, I think, in this Sunday's News of the Week, that cyber criminals now can buy a little piece of software that they can take any Android app, run it through their little piece of software, and that Android app will now, when it goes back into the Android store, have malware built into it that when the user installs it on his or her Android phone, it will now take over the phone. Androids are dangerous, and if you're connecting to an office, use a VPN when that's available as well. That's how the people in Starbucks can't read what's going back and forth, what you're doing. So that's another of the 12 steps. Dropbox, I hate Dropbox. I hate it more today than I did yesterday, actually. But yesterday I hated it because it's not secure. And yet it gives this impression of security. It sits on your computer. You don't know what it's doing on your computer. They said, this goes back about a year, Dropbox, we encrypt everything. We have no way of knowing what you're putting on into Dropbox. And then a story came out, well, that wasn't quite true. In fact, they could read, even if it was encrypted, because it was encrypted with their keys. They could read what was going on. So I don't trust Dropbox. I trust it less, or I like it less, because somebody just sent me a whole bunch of photos using Dropbox. I had to actually create a Dropbox account to be able to see those photos, and that really irked me. I tried to do it with a false email address, I couldn't. Because I didn't want to give them my email. I got enough spam, thank you. But be careful with Dropbox. You got to know where your sensitive information is as well. If you're working, I mean, you know, we're storing stuff on our home computers, in the office, on our smartphones, on our laptops, all of those places, and now in the cloud as well. If you don't know where it is, you can't manage it. You can't secure it. So you got to know where it is, that piece of it as well. There's two kinds of IT, it goes down to the technology, two kinds of IT people in the world. We see both kinds. Some of them are great. Tell me about security. It's fascinating. It's a complex subject. I want to learn about it. Let's go forward. Those are the kind of IT people you want. The kind of IT people, though, unfortunately, we see all too often, are the kinds of IT people who fear that if they admit to not knowing something, it's going to cost them their job. They're kind of either have an attitude, personality, or a fear, whatever it is, that they got to be the experts in everything. They're not the experts in information security. Information security is about risk. It's not about, can we get this product working with that product? It's all about risk. So when you look at education, this is one of those places with IT that, as I say, there's two different kinds of IT people in the world. There are those who see security and things like that as an opportunity. Let's go get educated. Let's go get smarter. There are those that don't. And that puts responsibility on you, and you know, if you've got somebody who comes to the house to manage your computers or whatever, make sure that you know you're managing the security. Put them to the 12-step test the same way. Online bank fraud. I got two charts on this because there's two different sides. Some of you see online banking as part of your business. And in that case, you've got to take the same kinds of steps as a $100 million business has to take to protect all of that information. Here's, on the one hand, get a separate workstation. A couple $100 is all it costs now. And use that for online banking, for nothing else. No email, no surfing the web. Because if all you're doing is using it to go back and forth to your bank, it's awfully hard for the cyber criminals to hit it, unlike your normal desktop. So stop using your normal desktop for online banking. Get a separate computer just for that. And then talk to your bank.
Can it be a laptop?
It can be a laptop, it can be anything that has a browser that lets you go to the bank. Right, that's basically all it needs.
But that you're not using email with?
You're not using email with it, you're not surfing the web with it, nothing, just banking, you know, that's all it does. And the other thing is work with your bank, call your bank, talk to them. There's things called dual control. Two people have to sign off before a transfer of money occurs. So cyber criminals have to hit both of them. We know an escrow company where that happened, so that's not by itself a solution, but it's a step up, and so it makes it harder. Talk to your bank, oops, push the button. Talk about what's called out-of-band confirmation. You go in and you say to the bank, transfer $100,000 to here. The bank calls you up on a landline and says, we have this request for $100,000. Did you really intend to do it? Ask them. Have them do that for you. Particularly above, you know, above whatever the limits are. And if you don't do overseas, ask your bank if they can block overseas transactions. Some can, some can't yet. It's a challenge. It depends on a whole host of factors. But those are things to do, to talk to your bank about. And then on the personal side, there we go. Your home finances, your personal finances, reconcile, 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 and reconcile. The laws are different. If you discover a breach, a loss, a fraud on a personal account, your bank will make you whole again. It's something called Regulation E, unlike on the commercial account holder. But you've got the responsibility to notify them. If you call them up and say, you know, a year ago I was a victim of fraud, it's a little late. So you want to reconcile every month. And then you want to also check the credit bureaus. You have a credit report. You can check it. It's once a year. You can go every 4 months. You can go to a different one of the 3 bureaus and get your credit file. Or you can go to each credit bureau once a year. So you can go to 3 of them every 4 months. Go to one of them each, cycle it through. Look at your credit report. Is there anything unusual? You can sign up. If you're a AAA member, you can sign up for free. I get alerted every time there's a check. Anybody checks my credit on Experian or anybody tries to open an account, a credit account, and it goes to Experian, I get an alert. So I just go into Experian and just, once a month I get an alert that says, whether or not there's any transactions for me to go look at. So it's very, very easy. And if you're a AAA member, that's free. For anywhere, I don't know, $10, $15 a month, you can sign up and all 3 credit bureaus will alert you in the event of a request for credit information or a change to your credit, okay? Finally, or not finally, but next one, you heard the phrase, it takes the village to secure the village. I'm president of the Los Angeles chapter of the Information Systems Security Association. Jim's our media expert. That's how Toni and I got connected. Laura is a member of our financial services security forum. Actually, Laura, it was her idea that got the whole thing started a little over a year ago. We meet once a month, just bankers and law enforcement people to work this challenge. May 16th, we are having our 6th annual Information Security Summit. Richard Clark, if you watch ABC News, you've probably seen him. He's their cybersecurity expert. He's a former national coordinator for security. He actually warned the Bush White House in August of 2001 about an impending Al-Qaeda attack. So we'll have him as a speaker. Jackie Lacey, the county district attorney, will be speaking. Here's a discount code for you to use, give you 25% off, and it's a low price anyway, because we don't price this to, this is not how we make money. This is how we educate the community. Come to that. If you know IT people, make absolutely positively sure you're there at that as well. And the final of these 12, this is from the Department of Homeland Security. They have a program called Stop, Think, Connect. And just keep this in consciousness as you're going through whatever your day on the internet. Before you use the internet, take time to understand the risks and learn how to spot potential problems. We've talked about that today. But keep it in consciousness. Think. Take a moment to be certain. The path is clear. Look for warning signs. You've seen warning signs now. Not that you're going to be able to recognize them every time. The cyber criminals are subtle. They're looking to fool you. That's their entree into your system. But keep your consciousness. Think about how what you're doing might impact yourself, your business, your family, from a cyber perspective. And then connect. You do these things, you pay attention to the other 11 things we've talked today, enjoy it. The internet is in some ways the greatest invention, since picking on Mel Brooks came to mind. It's the greatest invention since, saran wrap or something like that. But more seriously, it may turn out to be the greatest invention since the printing press or the wheel. I mean, that's how fundamental the internet is in changing our lives. Look, just the ability, my God. You're sitting in a conversation, and maybe it's at a restaurant, maybe it's with friends, whatever, and somebody says something about, well, what about X? And nobody knows anything about X, so you open up your smartphone and you go to Google and you look up X, and all of a sudden you're an expert. I mean, that's how great the internet is. It's just there's this dark side to it, the stuff we've been talking about today. So stop and think so that when you connect, you're really able to enjoy the internet, take advantage of all the internet has to offer without becoming a victim. So those are the 12 steps, and just to wrap it up, we need all of you to be, you're part of the defense. This is like World War II and everybody's got a role to play. Yeah. It really is. Because again, if I hack into your computer, I can use your computer to do damage to him. And well, we don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen. So here's some more information. I'm happy to email these. I can email them to you, and we can send them around.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
You'll have my contact information and everything.
Yeah, we'll send everybody who RSVP who came into the class. We'll make sure that they get all their contact information. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Actually, I have. Every time I want to go to Z4, it asks me, to my computer lab, it asks me that you have to install Java.
Yes.
And once I did, again, that comes back, you have to install it again. I have this problem every time I go to ZipForm.
Which website?
ZipForm is a
ZipForm, yeah.
website that it's through the California Association of Realtors, and it's where our WEN forms is those are the contracts that we use when we're doing these transactions. And it's the software that generates these contracts. So it's a zip form.
That's
Right.
a Java type
Was
application.
am I
Sure.
describing it?
You're
that's
describing it
exactly.
correctly.
Yeah.
They've upgraded that platform, just so you know. If you use the upgraded version, it used to be in beta, they've moved away from requirements of Java because of that.
Every time comes, even I
Use
I
the
book
update.
today, I book today, then tomorrow I want to ZipForm.
Because you're using the old version, which requires it, and it deletes all your security settings whenever you log out. It doesn't keep it on there. Part of the way the program works, it takes Java off every time.
So
you
I have
exit.
to
it
install
does.
it again?
So you should upgrade to the new Zip Forms Pro and stop using the old version, and you won't have to install Java. It's not Java run anymore.
Good,
You're welcome.
yeah. Does it run inside of a browser?
It
Or
does.
And does it matter which browser you use?
Yes, for me, I only can run off of Internet Explorer.
Yeah, me too.
Are you using the old one still?
Yeah.
The .7 or whatever?
Yeah, I do.
I think I'm using the new version, but I can't do it on, I can't work on it through,
I use it on Chrome. I use Internet
So-
Explorer. I use Firefox. I've never had a
now the
problem.
Firefox, I can't use it through Firefox.
Well, Lynn set it up for me. We can talk about that later. I don't
Yeah.
want to distract and
We
get
don't
off the
want to
details.
mention XP, but it's.
Yes, good point. Any of you still running XP?
Are you kidding
Now,
me?
Jim,
No.
you got
I love
to the
XP.
end of the month.
I love XP. I went to Price this morning and said what they had.
Microsoft is stopping supporting Windows XP as of the early part of April, which means, this is again, one of those, kind of spy crime pieces to this, right? So if you're a bad guy, you're waiting for knowing that come April 8th, I think it is, Microsoft is no longer going to patch Windows XP, which means vulnerabilities that are found in it aren't going to get fixed.
So what is the next phase after XP? Is it,
Well, now they're up
is
to
it
8.1.
Windows 8, Windows
8.1.
8, right?
Windows
Yeah,
8.1, yeah. And 8, I've never used 8. It got really terrible reviews.
Yeah.
I installed 8.1 on my wife's computer. I'm still running 7.
I think that's what I'm.
There was a learning curve to 8.1, but once I got over it and understood kind of the way it, because that's a different user interface.
It's pretty simple. I
It
mean,
comes
and
back
I'm
to
an
being simple.
idiot on this stuff.
There's a few
Stand
things
up.
I still don't know how to do with it, frankly, but they're workarounds.
But, it's not a very good program,
Yeah.
but it's in my opinion.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Very well.
Well,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Jan. Thank